All right, so welcome to the Denverse. I'm Derek, here with Quinn.
What
and
up?
We're here to talk about the most exciting time in years in Denver sports. I feel like two playoff teams. The Rockies are playing, although they're not playing well. But we wanted to talk first about the Avalanche, who will start their playoff series against the Calgary Flames on Thursday.
The 8th seed Avalanche against the 1st seed Calgary Flames, yeah.
Yes, and so the weird thing about hockey, and this is a terrible thing about hockey, is that they split up the bracket at the beginning. So it's the top three seeds in each division, and then they add a wild card team. And so the Avs are leaving their division, which is great, and going to the Pacific Division. So they will play Calgary, who had the most points in the Western Conference, and won the Pacific Division. And then if they win that game, they would play either Vegas or San Jose, who are both, or win that series, who are both in the Pacific Division. It's supposed to create more rivalries, but it's sort of unfair for a lot of teams because, for example, probably the top three teams in the Eastern Conference are all in the same division, so two of them are playing each other in the first round.
Oh, instead of, say, like in basketball, where usually the top two teams would end up playing in the conference finals.
Yeah. This is like if Houston and Golden State had to play in the first round. It's sort of like that. Toronto and Boston are having to do that.
Okay.
So the Avs are playing Calgary. Calgary is one of, I believe, two teams the Avs have never played in the playoffs in the Western Conference. They've never played Vegas, and they've never played Calgary, and they played everyone else. And I was surprised they'd never played Calgary because they played so many series in those early years. And Calgary went to Stanley Cup Finals in the early 2000s.
Oh, really?
So completely different teams now, but there's no playoff history there, which is interesting. So the Avs come in. It took until the second to last game to clinch, which was one game better than last year, but still pretty late. And really, the thing that makes hockey playoffs so interesting is that a goalie can steal a series. And right now, the Avs may have the best goalie in the Western Conference, at least over the last 6 weeks, in Philip Grubauer.
Philip Grubauer, who I think in one of our earlier episodes you told me it was Varlamov who was like the number one goalie, and then Grubauer was like the project dude who could show some flashes of greatness. What has made him become like the go-to dude?
So I think some of it is his positioning is a lot better, and he's just very confident. He's making the saves he needs to. Earlier in the year, I think his positioning wasn't great, and he was getting beat on easy shots. It didn't seem like his focus was there. He said part of his problem was he wasn't playing consistently enough because Varlamov was playing too, but they were literally the worst there. Two goalies, it felt like, in the whole Western Conference when they were just losing for 6 weeks. But he was the number one goalie in Washington last year, and then lost the first two games of the first round, was replaced by Holtby, and then Holtby took the Capitals to the Stanley Cup.
Oh, word.
So
Okay.
the playoffs, this is really a redemption tour for Grubauer, and he's solidified himself as the number one goalie. Varlamov may not even be on the team next year now because his contract's up. So it's been a big change, and so he's really who you're looking for at that back end. And then up front, the best player in the series will be Nathan MacKinnon. And so that'll be really interesting to see how he does. Landeskog, who's their captain, is healthy again. And we're hoping that Mikko Rantanen will be back. And for a while, they were saying that was the best line in hockey, was those three guys up front.
You know, remember, you hyped that up to me beginning of the season because that's how I learned how to watch hockey. But then the Avs just like had a lot of struggle scoring, where it was to be assumed that that was like not going to be the problem. How has the front line fixed it, specifically like McKinnon and Landeskog?
So they have really been leading the team, but the good thing is the last stretch here where the Avs made it the push to get back into the playoffs, they were, sort of a side note, but the Avs were down to a 9% chance to make the playoffs before they made this run to end the season. So really just turned it around. But the thing is, other people have started scoring. So when Landeskog and Rantanen were both out, a couple of the second-year guys, Comfort and Kerfoot, both stepped up. Kerfoot was playing with Landeskog at the end of the season and McKinnon, and that really helped. And then they're getting scoring from defensemen. Tyson Barrie has been the Avs' second-best player over the past month, and that has really helped, other than Grubauer. Grubauer has been the best player. then McKinnon, then Barrie. And Barrie's just been on a tear. He finished with the second most points by a defenseman for the Avs in a season, behind Ray Bourque, who did it during the 2001 Stanley Cup year. So that was exciting to see. Bourque, of course, was 40 at the time. But the thing is that other people are finally stepping up. And the difference between this year and last year is basically everyone was healthy. Last year, Varlamov was hurt. He was out. Eric Johnson, who was their number one defenseman, was out. Bernier, who was their backup goalie, ended up getting hurt. They were just really hurting last year. And this year, everybody basically is healthy except for Rantanen. They have 6 defensemen who have been playing really well, and their top prospect, who is Cale Makar, may join the team midway through this playoff series. He's playing in the Frozen Four, which is the Final Four for hockey, this weekend. And then as soon as his team is done, he can sign with the Avalanche, and it's looking like he might do that.
Well, that would be like if, like, what Zion Williamson was able to go straight from the basketball tournament into the league. That's a weird setup.
Yeah, and on a playoff team, which is also weird. So,
yeah,
that is one of the things that's interesting but also kind of fun about hockey is you can draft guys, and then they can decide to either go to their junior team, which is sort of like the same level as college, but you don't actually have to go to school, or your college team and just play with them. And so that there are a lot of guys that the Avs have under contract that are other places, which is sort of fun to follow them and sort of see how they're doing throughout the year.
So in terms of like hot streak, we can get like the National Player of the Year to come off like maybe a like championship win in college to then play in the playoffs.
Yeah, and
that's sauce, man.
He's just looking like he's going to be an immediate impact player. Like the thing people have been saying about him in college is that he's too good to still be playing in college and should be in the NHL. Which you just imagine anyone saying that about a college player.
Yeah,
like,
I know,
no one would say that in another sport. So it's exciting. And the Avs are hoping to get a boost still this week. The draft lottery is on Tuesday. And the top 2 picks, which the Avs have like an 18% chance and a 16% chance at the top 2 picks, where both are supposed to be just transformational players. So they'll know they have that going into next season. So they have all this momentum. And then they've got the Calgary Flames. And the Flames have sort of been rebuilding like the Avalanche. They had 107 points this year, which is really good, and won the Western Conference. And so that should be fun to watch. And the Flames don't have a goalie, which is also fun. They have 2 guys, David Rittich, I think you say, and Mike Smith, who is a journeyman guy. And those are your 2 goalies. And they've split the season. Neither of them have been great. And so if it's a goaltending matchup, the Avs really have the advantage there. And that could make a lot of change. So really, it's just how well would the Avs play? Can they stay healthy? And what kind of help are they going to get besides for that top line as far as scoring?
Okay, that was my next question. Like, what are the pitfalls they have to watch out for? Is it if, like, the 4 through whatever guys, like the secondary players, if they don't step up, that could be like, that's something that the Avs absolutely have to have contributing? Yeah,
they've got to have it from somewhere. And the good thing is, really, over the course of the season, they've developed different ways. So Tyson Barrie is someone that, has been getting them a lot of points. Makar, if he came in, would be a guy that probably could contribute on the offensive side. And then they've got the older guys like Carl Soderberg, who really, during the middle of the season, was their anchor. He's just a solid guy, one of the older guys on the team, but he's been leading some of the older guys. And then you've got the sophomores, Comfer and Kerfoot, and Jost, who's been playing on the 4th line, but still contributing on special teams, the power play and penalty kill. So that all, like, they're set up well. The thing is that Calgary is a nasty team. They have some guys that you really don't want to get on the wrong side of, led by Matthew Tkachuk, who is the son of, what is his name? The Tkachuk that played for the Blues. Can't think of his name right now. And so they have to watch out for that. They've got some other guys. And then the guy that people love to call Johnny Hockey is their best player. His name is Johnny Gaudreau. He had 99 points, the same as McKinnon. And he really is, if you want to have a drinking game for this series, just how many times they say Johnny Hockey. It drives Avs fans crazy. So look out for that. So they've got him. Elias Lindholm is also one of their top players. He had 78 points this year. So they've got some guys. They just don't have the same experience as the Avs do, which isn't a ton of experience, but just going to the playoffs last year makes a big difference for them.
And it seems like Calgary, they've just been so good that they may not know how to deal with adversity.
Yeah, don't know how to deal with adversity. They didn't have to play in the Avs division, which is a little harder. And they don't have the goaltending, which again, a hot goaltender can steal you games, and the Avs have seen that before. The thing is, this time, they have the defense where hopefully Grubauer isn't going to have to make 40 saves, where it can be like 30 saves, and they can actually control play. So sort of as you've been watching this year, what things have you really noticed about the Avs as you've been trying to pick them up?
Well, one thing I noticed, that front line, and forgive me for, I can only use basketball lingo, sort of.
No, that's good.
But I've seen them be able to get good penetration, shots on goal, or they'd get good penetration and then take bad shots on goal. Mm-hmm. And then that would leave them kind of out of place on defense. And I think they are still a younger team, so they've played down to their competition in ways. Like they had, 2 terrible losses to the Blackhawks, which didn't even seem that they wanted to be competitive, but the Avs just let them be competitive and then ultimately lost the game. Yeah, I remember seeing, but a couple games early on that, I was like, this Grubauer dude is crushing it, yeah. But I think it's playing as a complete unit, the chemistry that, let the offense do its thing, and they know that they have the defense to back them up. But as soon as, people get out of position or just kind of, rush it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best benefits, even though they're an 8 seed versus a 1 seed, that they're going in hot and confident. Whereas Calgary, if there's some bruisers, that's because the Avs are a finesse team. They're not a nasty team, are they?
They're not, but they do have some guys that'll step up. Soderberg, Colin Wilson, Nikita Zadorov, the defenseman, who's the huge Russian guy on the back end. And he's fun to watch. He's someone, when you're watching these games, you should really look out for, because you'll notice that when forwards are bringing in the puck against him, they'll go to the other side because he will crush you into the boards. And teams don't want to they don't want to deal with the physicality of having to go up against Zadorov.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's a good thing to watch out for. I think the other thing to really look out for is how the Avs do on special teams, which is power play and penalty kill. When their power play is working, they move the puck a lot. It's sort of like the Nuggets rotation. When the offense is working, the ball's going a lot of places, and when it's not working, they're not getting it in the zone and they're losing it quickly.
Yeah.
And the Avs also have to not take bad penalties. Last week, when they were trying to clinch, it was tied. All they needed was to get to overtime to clinch the playoffs, and they took a too many men on the ice penalty with 1:30 left, and it was the worst penalty you could take at the worst time.
Oh, that's just bad.
Yeah.
Discipline.
And it was so obvious that the guy with the puck for the Jets was the guy that was wait a second, they've got too many guys on the ice. He was counting them as he was on the ice.
Oh,
they could figure it out. That's how bad it was. So I think that's something to look out for. I think, and we talked about this, if you're going to pick who the odds to go further are, I think the Nuggets have a better chance of getting out of the first round, but the Avs have a better chance of going farther. So if the Avs can get hot, if they can get out of the first round, I like their odds better in the second round, just because they're going to build on momentum. They have some things going their way. As where the Nuggets are going to run into teams where it's going to be really hard, the Avalanche can at least compete. They won't be as good as either team they'd face in the second round, but they have a chance, especially with the goaltending.
Yeah. I mean, if you're able to take down the number one, then there's that intimidation factor.
Yeah.
Then whatever team they go against in the second round has to take them seriously as a straight up equal. Yeah. Whereas the Nuggets, Houston, Golden State, even Utah aren't afraid of them right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really what to look out for, and just remembering how much the energy, as much as the energy goes up from NBA regular season to playoffs, it's 10 times that for hockey, especially in a close game, because it's just any bounce can be the difference in the series.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm excited.
All right, well, Avs, it's been an up and down season, but thank you for taking us this far. Excited to see what happens. When does their game one start?
So their game one is Thursday in Calgary, then Saturday night in Calgary, and then Monday and Wednesday here. They're on an every other night all the way through the series, which is weird. So
I personally would love to see a rivalry with Calgary. Not just the hockey team, but the city itself. Because I think it's actually very much like Denver. But I just don't know anything about what they do up there.
Yeah, it's just directly north of us. It's the same layout. It's in the Mountain Time Zone, so it is a good natural rival. If they could get some other sports, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be nice. We started this expedition 6 months ago with the Denver Nuggets, and I was so hyped because they were showing signs of promise that maybe this was a real deal team. Now, as of recording, the Nuggets are clinging on to the 2 seed to head into the playoffs, which start this Saturday. And as exciting as it is, there's perhaps more questions about who this team really is in this moment than at any other point during the season.
Well, and just on that real quick, at the beginning of the year, we were cautiously optimistic they could get the 3 seed. We were there's a chance. They might be good enough.
Yeah.
And now we're at this place where they're in the 2 seed, and that would be far exceeding expectations, and we're I don't know how we feel about them right now.
Yeah, that was, if you had told me 6 months ago when I was hyping them up, a 5 seed would be really cool.
Yeah.
That means that we beat out somebody in our division. And actually, the biggest celebration is the Nuggets have clinched the Northwest Division for the first time since, I think, 2010, and only one of a handful of times in the history of the franchise. So first and foremost, we are division champs.
And we get a banner. The Nuggets get a banner up there.
Yeah, buddy. So it's interesting. It's a what have you done for me lately league. And we're fickle people as sports fans. So, yes, they are 2 seeds, barely holding on to that. And I don't think either of us are satisfied at all with how it's gone down thus far.
It's just been a rough month. Has it probably been a month where it's been really rough?
Yeah.
Where it was just, for a long time, no one was playing well except the starters. The starters were shaky. And I think the thing that we're not satisfied about is that it just doesn't seem like they stuck with a plan ever since they clinched a playoff spot. Malone said that night the goal was to protect the 2 seed. He was being pragmatic. The Warriors had probably the easiest schedule of any playoff team, and the Nuggets had a really hard schedule. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't feel like he's protected the 2 seed very well.
No, and that's where I think far and away the most frustrating game since early last season, I think, is the Wizards game where Nuggets are at home against an already depleted Wizards team, I think on the last game of a road trip, which is the classic trap game, but it didn't play out we didn't take them seriously, got hit in the mouth. It was, Nuggets, I think, went up by 25.
Yeah.
And then just stopped playing basketball entirely.
Yeah, I mean, Murray was hurt. He wasn't really hurt. He was a little bit hurt and just wasn't playing the rest of the game. And then they sort of just began to fall apart. And then Jokic got himself thrown out late in the game. He shouldn't have been thrown out, but also he's got to control his temper, which I think everyone has agreed with. But it was just the most frustrating game. It was a classic. The Nuggets should have won this game and didn't. Yeah,
and it just looked act like you've been here before, which they have, which is amazing. I think they're 13-3 in games decided by 3 points or fewer. So they've been clutch, but this one didn't even feel like it was a matter of clutch. It was, I think, that killer instinct. I've heard the analogy, a lion doesn't kill its prey by tearing it to shreds. It kills its prey by getting a grip and then just holding on till it suffocates. And that analogy plays into the Nuggets were up big, and then they just started playing dumb ball, taking dumb threes early in the shot clock, trying to drive to the rim with good defense, and just not paying attention. And then you try to hunt a zebra, and then it kicks you in the head, and then kicks you again and again and again, and then you hurt yourself in your own confusion. That was the most frustrating game in a run of tough games. They got absolutely blown out by the Rockets on the road and the Warriors on the road. Games we didn't think we were going to win, but you also wanted to see. Play like a 2 seed, yo.
Yeah, and it was like they have done some good things. Up until the Portland loss on Sunday, they had beaten every team in their division. The only team they'd lost to was the Utah Jazz, who's one of their last two opponents. They haven't lost another game in the division other than that Portland game, which is just crazy. They are looking to have the best record of all time on the second of back-to-back nights. So they've done some things really well, but they're not playing their best basketball right now. The team seems out of sync, especially with everyone being healthy, is frustrating to see.
The reason why they're here is because they were able to deal with so much adversity with, at one point it seemed like, there were 2 starters who were playing, 3 starters out, a handful of shaky bench dudes, and everyone just showed up, and they powered through a lot of games. You would be almost all right with them losing because it was just like, there's no way you can win being this depleted. But now we have a fully healthy team, and it looks like no one knows what to do. That you talk about a plan. I think Malone's had a trouble figuring out, okay, what do I do with a healthy squad who should be able to compete?
Which was one of our concerns about Malone coming into the season, was just how is he going to manage the depth.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is the NBA season is too long. March is a hard indicator, but I think that it's still true that you want to be playing your best basketball right before the playoffs. And it doesn't feel like the Nuggets are, and I think the thing that I feel like that they should have done was really focus on winning the winnable games, sitting guys in the games they knew they weren't going to win, which I think they tried to do in the Portland game, but that was the first time they'd sat anybody.
Yeah, and it was too late. I think even by the second half of the Houston game, there weren't too many indicators that, we can turn this around. But I would have been super pissed. We would have had to have called it an emergency podcast if they had sat, because that's a completely different story than nobly getting your ass kicked as opposed to smartly getting your ass kicked. You don't want that. I think they need to deal with adversity now. It's very important. Yeah, it's 82 games, which is probably 10 to 15 games too long for a season, which, tough as a fan, I like all the games. But, Jokic has been playing phenomenally, and he's been burnt out. He's been carrying this team all season. The only game he hasn't played is one where he got ejected or suspended for walking off the bench. Very, very. He's got like size 16 feet. It's very easy to get into that like restricted area. So I'd say at this point, I just want to play smart basketball that takes care of our players. I think the biggest silver lining is Gary Harris looked like the shooting guard that we were hoping he would be this season.
And Millsap looks like he's 5 years younger than he was at the beginning of the year, which has been a great improvement. I don't know how it happened.
A dude that old, you don't think you get fresher legs this far down the road. But I think the hope is, with 2 games left, that everyone will know their role. It was Trey Lyles put up 15 points yesterday. Juancho got a dunk and a 3. And neither of those dudes are probably going to crack the rotation at all. But, Torrey Craig has been a great revelation. That there was so much hype on Reddit for him in the Summer League last year. To see him hit shots and play good defense. I think regardless of what happens in matchup, I would like to see Torrey Craig starting if the Nuggets have to play the Rockets, just because it seems at this point they've tried everything else, and save for one of the Rockets' top players being hurt, we have to find something different that they're not expecting.
Well, and I just think Barton is such a he's a spark plug, but again, it's one of the things Malone has to manage is he actually a spark plug or is he weighing you down? And I think that's very hard when you're starting the game because everyone needs to get into rhythm early. Barton's rhythm is not contingent on how he plays early in the game. It's just sort of he has it or he doesn't.
Yeah.
And you just sort of have to see. So I agree with that. I think that the one thing that I think, and I wonder about this, is I think the Nuggets had a chance to win the Portland game and decided not to do everything they could for whatever, better or worse. I see no way they're going to win the Utah game. They don't play well against Utah, and they don't play well in Utah. And they never have.
Never. regardless of what team, from the Thuggets to the Brian Shaw days to right now, the Utah has our number. I think that there was talk that he might rest guys tomorrow as well. Small sliver of hope is that Utah also might rest some dudes because they're almost pretty firmly locked into the 5 seed, so they won't be playing for much of anything. But I think as long as Rudy Gobert is on the court, there's no answer for the Nuggets on him and Donovan Mitchell thus far. But in the 2 games that we lost against Utah didn't get prime Murray, and I feel a 22-year-old dude, 1 day's rest is enough to get like a hot Jamal Murray. But I don't know. It's at this point I'm just like ready for the playoffs to start. As long as everyone stays healthy, I would take 2 L's, do the 3 seed, and then just smack the hell out of the Clippers who they would play.
I think so. I think it's still up in the air, isn't it? But I think that's what it looks like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, of the likely opponents the Nuggets are playing in the first round, I'm still most afraid of the Spurs, even though the Nuggets smacked them down. Just Greg Popovich, he's terrifying. He's been terrifying for 20 years, too.
I just think he has a plan for Jokic that no one has seen yet, and that is worrying if the Nuggets can counteract that. Yeah, and that's, like, as talented as Jokic is, I only see, like, one way he can thrive. And any other way, it's like you're good at adapting, but in a playoff series, just having as many as 7 games in a row with a team, Popovich is the scariest guy because he just has so many game plans. And you had the conspiracy theory that Popovich got himself ejected early in the game. So in the first minute. In the first minute. I think it was the first minute, 3 seconds. Yes, for minute and 3. That he did that on purpose to hide. Yeah, I think he didn't want to coach that game, and he was ready to get thrown out to not coach it. That's which is a complete Popovich move. Yeah. Right now, the 6th seed is the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 7th seed is the Spurs, and the 8th seed is the Clippers. They're separated by half a game. Oklahoma City's 47-33, and both the Spurs and Clippers are 47-34. So it could be any 3 of those teams, no matter what seed they get. Yeah, and that's actually going to be really hard. I'm still kind of afraid of OKC because playoff for us is a different creature. Playoff P is a lesser creature, but nonetheless, you have 2 superstars and a decent supporting cast. I just don't want the Nuggets to be shook, and I'm happy that they've had some adversity because I think Murray will rise to the occasion, Jokic will rise to the occasion, Paul will be a great anchor, but then everyone else is just a toss-up. Like, yeah, Will Barton might be that spark plug. He'll get like 35 points, or he'll shoot and shoot and shoot and miss. And the same with Malik Beasley to a lesser extent. He misses less, but he's less productive on some nights. Yeah, and even Morris, like, he'll have an off night that doesn't stand out. But if everyone has an off night at the same time, I'm not sure if a young team can shake that off and then play the same exact team again with a different result. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think for us, we know this isn't the Nuggets' year. Like, this is not the year they're going to make the run. But the more experience they can get and the more different situations they get, the shorter that time gets between where they are now and where they could actually compete with the top teams. Yeah, which, I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason and beginning of the season. Like, of course, love to see Michael Porter Jr. in Summer League ball out. But even then, like, Tim Conley has done some wheeling dealing on draft night. And right now, the team realizes there's a lot of pieces that could be worthwhile. Like, Juancho and Trey Lyles don't have huge trade values now, but if you package it with Barton and a pick, then you might get like a Whataburger gift card. And then you can re-sign Beasley, which I think is something they're going to have to figure out. Yeah. Whether they want Beasley or Barton. I mean, then that's also cool that there's a few guys who are playing for contracts. And so you're getting the best version of everyone headed to the playoffs. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back before the playoffs start, probably. Yeah. Let us know.